I don't think you know anything about Harry Styles.
Our communities.
I'm gonna talk about it again, so I tell y'all, I told y'all so.
Our culture.
I am a Sam Smith, and I will be Sam's representative.
Our story.
It's also not a requirement for you to agree.
Our opinions.
This is the Culture Report.
Welcome to the Culture Report. So we're going to hop right into it. Netflix just announced a new season of the anthology series Monster by Ryan Murphy. You might remember the first season that focused on the serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, whose victims were predominantly Black and Asian gay men. The series quickly became one of Netflix's biggest shows and saw huge wins during the award season for actor Evan Peters. But many called out the lack of sensitivity in a portrayal of a story so harmful to many communities. While the new season is going to focus on the Menendez brothers, it's the portrayal in the first season that made this hard to watch for some, and I'm some.
You are some.
I'm some.
Do you think they could have been a little bit more sensitive in the way they covered it, or how so?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It was hard to watch for me, and I'm a horror person. I love horror films, but for some reason I couldn't get past episode 2.
I did make it past it. I watched the entire thing, and I'm not a horror person at all. I'm more into like psychological thrillers, which is probably why it was interesting to me. But it did strike a chord a little bit because like his victims were Black men. Literally in the first episode, you see him going to a gay bar, getting a Black man. I was like,
yeah.
Child, that could have been, like, it feels like it could have been me, and it feels scary. I'm like, okay, no. So was that the issue for you?
Maybe that's what it was. It felt like, dang, that could have been me. Like,
But it was based on a true story, so
Yeah,
you have
it
to
was
also think about that. I
Which
mean,
makes it worse.
I know exactly, but they're doing like a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of series about serial killers and stuff like this. So I think maybe you're offended or you feel something because you are a gay Black man.
Yeah.
So you know.
Well, also think of like the families that have to relive this again. I mean, it has to be re-traumatizing. I feel like all this, love of true crime, of us wanting more and more, and these creators making money out of it. I mean, I don't know, at what cost do we continue making these?
yeah, I think there's still a sensitivity that we must adhere to. Like, I think the portrayal of true crimes that pertain to people that hurt children, I think even in those stories, it's handled with a delicacy that I didn't feel that this series had. Does that make sense? Like, I didn't feel like there was a sense, like, even the families came out and spoke and said that they were offended by this series, that it shouldn't have been made.
Yeah.
And it was,
It looked like, Ryan Murphy, of course, like, horror, like, is his genre, like, that's what he thrives at. So I feel like if this were fictional, do you think you'd still have the same issue with it?
Probably so. It was really graphic. And maybe because it could have been me. I was in that demographic, so maybe that's why it hits differently. I'm not sure, but like.
I think he's just following the trend. Right now, I feel like everybody's really into like serial killers,
They love 'em.
thrillers. I feel like
But there's still like a sensitivity with those portrayals, don't you think?
I don't think so.
I agree. I don't think anything's
I don't
off
think so.
limits.
I've seen bloody murders and all of this on all the TV shows, no matter what kind of show it is.
It makes me wonder too if we're missing opportunities to like highlight other stories. I don't know, with just sensationalizing all these stories, with serial killers, are we missing opportunities to do, I don't know, different shows that maybe.
Or a different perspective.
Exactly.
I think maybe what needs to happen is just a different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't be making it if they didn't have a market for it. So y'all are watching.
We'll be watching. Maybe we'll watch the next season. I don't know.
All right, let's move on. So former basketball player Dwayne Wade was interviewed for Showtime's Headliners, where he opened up about moving out of Florida. He said one of the main reasons he left was because of the recent anti-LGBTQ legislation in the state. So just a little background, his 15-year-old daughter, Zaya, is transgender. He said he didn't feel safe living there. Take a look at part of that interview.
What do you have to say to some of those state legislators who maybe have your jersey in their closets, who came and brought their kids to your game to cheer for you?
Well, I think that's another reason why I don't live in this state. A lot of people don't know that. I have to make decisions for my family, not just personal, individual decisions. I mean, obviously the taxes is great.
Okay.
Having Wade County is great, but my family would not be accepted or feel comfortable there. And so that's one of the reasons why I don't live there.
So yeah, I feel like we're seeing this a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen it all over the news, working here. I know there's a story we did recently even where a woman was pregnant and she needed an abortion because it was risky for her to have the baby. And she lived in Texas and she had to come here to Colorado to get that abortion. So I feel like it's happening just in general. Like these legislations are making people go to other places.
That's a good point, yeah. I think there's safety for specific communities and people groups in different states. And I think now that seeing these different legislations affect the communities that we're a part of, we're more mindful of where our safe spaces are in these specific states. So like, I think it's amazing that like he was able to and have the resources to pick up and move his family to a place that was safe for his transgender daughter.
That part, because like just having the resources, because they can do that, they have the money, they have the time, they can just pick up and go. So I think it just sucks for the people who are like, living in their state, they don't have the they can't move. Like they have their job, they have their family, their whole, like everything is there.
Yeah.
So it's really unfortunate. So, I mean, it's good for them in that situation. Though.
Yeah, I love that he took a stand. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I am a Colorado native. But all of you guys are from somewhere else. Did you guys leave where you guys lived because of any legislation or something in that state that just didn't go by what you believe in?
Well, I grew.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I grew up in Texas, so I always felt uncomfortable growing up in Texas, and I don't think it wasn't until I became an adult that I was able to like verbalize what that felt like and why that might have been. But I identified with living in New York for like 7 years, and that's where I became this person that I am today. And that was like a safe space for me. Like my community was there. It was a beautiful picture of what like it should look like. And then I was reminded of like leaving New York, how that place is not like the rest of the states.
Yeah, I mean the bigotry in Texas is off the charts. But I lived in Houston. It was like a different story. Like we're super diverse over there. So I was in like a little bubble for a while. But if you go to a rural area and things like that, because my family from the country, so like whenever we go to the family reunions or Thanksgiving, like I know, like you can feel it. So like I just have to walk differently. I'm very conscious whenever I leave the metro area now. So
what about you, Alexia?
Well, I'm from Florida. You guys all know that, but I think I don't think any of this was when I was living there. I moved here like 2 years ago. I feel like DeSantis has just really upped his he's just doing all these awful things now. I don't know why it's happening now. He's been governor for a while, but recently it's just all these things with the Don't Say Gay bill, and he's pushing for all these other things. So I think this is very recent for Florida.
Your family is there. Would you move back?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I don't think the people in Florida are, some of the laws, they don't represent DeSantis. So I don't want to say like, oh no, I don't want to move back because of him, because I love the people there. They don't represent. DeSantis is not Florida.
Yeah.
He's doing things to hurt the people in Florida.
Wow. I spoke to a mother recently about the same kind of story. Like she moved her family from Texas to Colorado specifically because she has a trans child and she wanted to make it safer for them to exist. So let's take a look at that.
Whenever I was sitting in my car in the parking lot at the state capitol in Austin, after I had just finished testifying in front of a House committee against one of the sports bills, trying to keep trans kids from playing sports with their friends, I had this moment of like, it was just sort of an epiphany, a horrible epiphany of like, I'm going to have to keep doing this again and again and again. And I felt pretty certain that there was going to come a time that it would not be physically safe for me, and certainly not for Noah, to be in Texas anymore. So I went to Vermont and it was beautiful, but I just didn't feel a connection. California was way too expensive. New Mexico was a maybe. But when I came to visit Colorado, it just had all the pieces. It just felt right. It felt like it could be a soft place to land. And it was such a good decision.
So that was a special conversation. You could tell she loved her family and her child. And it was just so special to see parents like her and Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union that really go the extra mile to make sure that their families are taken care of, specifically their trans children.
Right.
So that was something.
Don't think you're safe just because you live in a big city. Because like me, like I was like, oh, I'm in Houston, it's fine, we're super liberal here. But I'm like, but if Greg Abbott makes a decision or something at the state level, that has my Houston hood has nothing to do with that. It won't protect me. But like I said, it's still unfortunate that you have to move. But
and
like, imagine
the exhaustion of continuously having to fight for yourself or your child to exist safely in a place that you call home, and how exhausting that eventually and the toll that it takes on you. So like when I talked to her, she's like felt like Denver became this safe space for them, and like they feel like they're finally settling into something a little bit more peaceful.
Yeah, so hopefully they can find a forever home right here in Colorado because, you know, we're doing things right for the most part, as far as making people feel comfortable.
Yeah. Well, okay, so Zoe Zephyr, the first openly trans person elected into the Montana legislature, has been silenced by her GOP colleagues. This happened after the lawmaker rebuked a proposal that would ban gender-affirming care in Montana for minors. For 3 days, she was barred from speaking during the deliberations for that bill. In a statement posted on Twitter, the Montana Freedom Caucus demanded she be censured while also misgendering her. Problematic. Zephyr was also officially censured and barred from speaking on April 20th. She has since filed a lawsuit against the state over that censure.
Formally reprimanded. When I spoke, the majority leader stood up and objected, much like our minority leader does when they say something we take exception to. But nothing happened, and then on Thursday, the speaker informed me that he would no longer be recognizing me because in his mind, I broke decorum.
Raised my microphone to amplify their voices, to make sure that the people who elected me here are heard.
Absolutely.
We see this happening all around the country, so this is not something new, and it's not something new that we haven't talked about. We saw this in Tennessee with the 2 black legislatures that were barred from speaking, or removed from Congress, I should say, or state legislature. And now we see this happening in Montana, and it's specifically, what we're seeing is specifically these marginalized groups. So we saw those black legislatures, we saw this trans legislature, so.
I can't wrap my head around that. I'm like, these people are elected, politicians in general are just elected into office to be a voice for the people. So when they want to speak for the people, they're like, oh no, you can't do that. Like, just because the majority doesn't like what they say, they're just like, you can't speak anymore. And like, excuse me? Like, what is that?
It's so anti-democratic. When I read this story, I don't know. You don't like something, you just silence them? I mean, what kind of president are we setting up with that?
Yeah. John Lewis talked about getting into good trouble and making good trouble. And I think this is a perfect example of that. Like, because if you watch some of those clips, her community was there advocating for her, and they were saying, let her speak. They were chanting on the floor saying, let her speak, let her speak. And she was barred from speaking about an issue that predominantly affects her and other LGBTQ people. So it's just, like you said, very anti-democratic.
Yeah, didn't they classify it like a riot? I'm like, anything that you saw about it was not anything close to a riot. I mean, not even anything close to like the insurrection that they had at the Capitol.
Well, different story.
But seriously, I just, that's what Jamol said, that they're elected to be able to represent those people, so they should have a voice.
Yeah, we still got a lot of bigotry within a lot of these state legislatures and in our Congress and politics in general that are affecting these communities, and this was a perfect example of like seeing how that affects these people.
Absolutely, we're going to keep on calling it out, so keep up the clownery.
All right, moving on to some exciting news. We have Cinco de Mayo coming this week. Yay! And we actually, and in many places across the United States, people are already preparing for the big party. But even though it's a tradition celebrated long ago, many people don't know its meaning. So we took to the streets to test people's knowledge on Cinco de Mayo with a little trivia. Let's take a look.
The Battle of Buena Vista.
Buena Vista?
Palo Alto.
I think it was Puebla. I would have guessed Alamo. What do you want? You said Puebla? I said Puebla. We're gonna go with Puebla. Let's go!
Mexican Independence Day.
Mexican Independence Day. That's what I thought too.
Mexican Independence Day.
There you go, girl. All right.
I'm between Mexico and France right now. I don't exactly know. I want to say Mexico.
I want to say French.
Do you?
I want to say the U.S.
Here in the U.S.?
I'm pretty sure it's like the U.S. for whatever reason. Yeah.
It probably is the U.S.
We just go U.S.
Yeah, U.S.
Let's go to U.S.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go with Mexico. Where's the U.S.?
U.S.
Oh, okay, wow.
The 5th of May.
May 5th.
That's
May. Let's go. Cinco de Mayo.
What date is Cinco de Mayo?
I have no idea. Bro, really? I don't.
I'm going to say May 5th.
Everybody is so good at this.
I'm so glad.
I couldn't even
Can you
tell you
repeat
the
the
day
question?
Christmas is. I couldn't even tell you what day Christmas is on.
Can you repeat the question?
What day is Cinco de Mayo on?
I'm going to say 5th of May.
Okay. On the 5th?
Oh.
I
It's in the question.
De Mayo? I don't know.
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I think it's May 5th.
The 5th of May.
The 5th of May. Okay.
Cinco de Mayo.
I didn't know Mayo was May in Spanish.
I love it.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, I did my best.
You guys did awesome.
It was rough. A lot of people were like really worried because they didn't know the history. But for anybody that doesn't know, it's not Mexican Independence Day.
So explain it to us.
So in short, the Mexican militia beat the French. They went in and invaded Mexico because they were collecting debts. And although the Mexican, army was a lot smaller, they did win. And so that's what we celebrate. This was in Puebla, Mexico, which is where they actually do celebrate, not throughout Mexico.
Yeah, that was one of the questions. When she was like, "Where is it most widely celebrated?" And everybody's like, "Mexico, maybe." Which I mean, I get it.
That's
so,
what your first thought would be.
It is.
Well, some said France. I was like, oh my
I know,
God.
when they said that, I was like, whoa.
I think they thought we were trying to trip them up. But I mean, I'm so happy that they were willing to do it because it's always a learning experience. They learned something new. I'm sure they'll remember it now. So thank y'all for helping us out. But
Do you guys celebrate Cinco de Mayo?
I grew up in Corpus Christi, so like I feel like it was a thing there, like to celebrate it. But I probably didn't have the background like I should have when I was celebrating.
We should have asked you some trivia.
But I learned something. So.
Well,
for Alexia.
I usually just, have a quiet, go to a Mexican restaurant, have some tacos, margaritas. That's what I do usually, most times.
A lot of Mexican families here in the States do have, carne asadas. For me, I just go out, eat some good Mexican food, have a delicious margarita, and celebrate the culture, because that's
literally
what it's about.
It's always a big party. It's always a big party. Everybody on my block, I could hear the parties. They'd have everybody over. The streets would be packed. And everybody would be blasting music till like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. But we would have we'd either cook tacos, cook Mexican food, or go to a little local Mexican restaurant and get some to go.
Yeah, a lot of places do have the festivals, so make sure you guys, if you guys get a chance to go, they're going to be fun.
All right. Yeah, from celebrating culture, but Monday we celebrated fashion. The first Monday in May is the biggest night in fashion. The world's biggest stars showed up to pay tribute to one of the most prolific fashion designers. The theme, Karl Lagerfeld, A Line of Beauty. Now, we're going to get into the looks, don't worry, I promise, but we can't continue without addressing the very fashionable elephant in the room. So, though Karl left an indelible mark on the fashion industry and pop culture as a whole, he left much controversy in his path. So he found himself in hot water countless times over the decades, from his sexist, fatphobic, and generally distasteful comments. He called Princess Diana pretty but stupid, Andy Warhol physically repulsive, spoke out against gay marriage, and said that he was fed up with the Me Too movement. And of course, he was notoriously known to only work with thin models, saying, quote, "No one wants to see curvy women." So with this, I mean, a lot of people have been speaking out about it. Do you think you can separate the art from the person? I'll ask Ashton. I want to know.
I feel like what we've seen that hasn't happened. For the first person that comes to mind is R. Kelly.
It is,
and rightfully so. But so are people allowed to listen to R. Kelly now?
I mean, not around me. I mean, I want to step in the name of love too, but I also don't need any of these coins going in his pocket.
Right, but then we have to have that same energy for people like this that, I mean, of course, the scandals and the things that they've done and the harm that they've caused to these communities and to these people are a little bit different, but I think still, your art and your life are kind of intertwined, so I feel like, we should separate, probably should separate the two a little bit more.
I don't think we should have idolized him here. I mean, I
Absolutely
think
not,
that
no.
reflects poorly on the industry. Sure, they could have a small tribute to him. I mean, he did have, you know, he was a legend when it came to fashion. However, to do the whole Met Gala
whole
around him, I
theme
mean,
around him.
I don't know, it's like people forget the things he said, what he thought, you know. There's got to be a fine line there. And people that did show up, I mean, what does that say about us even watching and those ones that did go?
The ones that did. I know somebody.
Jamol also tweeted about, like, you know, these celebrities that went and are a part of the Me Too movement are pretty much contradicting what they say by going to this event. So she, you know, she posted, she's been saying a lot of stuff about it, but she's been.
He did speak out. He said he was saying how amazing it was. He was like, it just amazes me how it took these women 20 years to like fess up to stuff, and there's no witnesses to prove anything.
Yeah.
So
like that's a problem, and I think those kind of things, especially being on such a big record and everybody having known those comments he made, like it was probably distasteful to have this event center or celebrate him and his work when there's so many other designers and people of color and marginalized groups of people that have made an impact in fashion that could have been more celebrated and lifted up. Because to me, like, what was the point of like celebrating someone like this?
Have they ever like just honored like a designer before? Was this the first time that they just decided to honor?
It's a great
question.
I'm not sure. I feel like
now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I actually don't know.
History that I can remember from the past.
So why him?
I've always seen like extravagant outfits. This time it was, you know, around Chanel, so everybody was pretty, you know, low key. Somewhere.
I do feel like this was a cohesive theme. Like looking at everybody, it didn't feel as circus and outlandish as it usually does. It felt like cohesive, and supposedly there was women there like Viola Davis and other actresses and artists that like kind of use their look and their moment to what's the word?
The Me Too moment.
Yeah, to kind of rebuke this celebration of him by wearing pink, which was supposedly a color that he hated, and a color that represented the Me Too movement. So we saw another indigenous woman show up in a pink gown and stuff like that. So
I'd be curious if they do come out and speak about it and say if that's why they wore it.
Just curious. Okay, if we just had to, we'll do one each, maybe two. What's your top look of the night, Alexia?
Anne Hathaway, Cardi B.
Jeremy Pope.
Jeremy Pope.
Bad Bunny and my zaddy, Pedro Pascual.
I know, like if anybody else wore those shorts, I would have pressed next. But however, it's something about him. Me, Anne Hathaway, absolutely, it's Anne Hathaway.
Gotcha.
For sure. And Janelle Monáe is in the mix too.
Yeah.
You gotta give it.
I'm surprised you didn't say Rihanna.
Rihanna's the queen, so she'll be like, she's like the number one. She was the moment.
We love Rihanna.
So like number one after that was Jeremy Pope.
Okay.
Well, anyways, let's hop into our good news of the week. A sports bar in Portland is doing things a little bit different by only featuring women's sports in their bar. Sports Bra, that's the name of the bar, was founded by a queer woman just last year who said the bar has been successful so far, bringing in nearly $1 million of revenue in its first year of business. So kudos to her.
All right, so composer Helen Park just made history after nabbing a Tony Award for Best Original Score in a Broadway show for the show K-pop. Park is the first Asian woman to be nominated in the category. She took to her Instagram to thank fans, writing, "We did it."
And the NFL added a little Latin flavor with the Patriots' first-round pick of cornerback Christian Gonzalez in the 2023 NFL Draft. The Colombian player paid tribute to his country when he revealed that his white jacket was hiding the yellow, blue, and red colors of the Colombian flag.
Go off, King. All right, and a teenager in Louisiana is eyeing a record of scholarship offers. So Dennis Barnes is a 16-year-old senior with a 4.98 GPA. Right now, he has offers from around 130 colleges and universities that total more than $9 million. Now, right? And his plan is to major in computer science as an undergraduate, but he's also thinking about law school, which he's gonna eat that up. That's amazing to see.
I love it.
He raised the bar quite high.
Absolutely.
A lot of good news, and it's AAPI month. So.
Yes, so we will make sure that we're going to acknowledge that it is that month, and we are going to have some stories this month to dedicate
start
to
next
that.
week, so y'all stick with us.
Yes.
We got y'all covered.
Yes.
Okay, so this week we want you to join the conversation. So let us know what good things you're seeing in the culture. So email us at culturereport@9news.com with your good news.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Culture Report. We'll be back to continue the conversation next Thursday right here on our free 9 News Plus app and 9news.com.